I'm John, and I'm a level 1 chef.
I'm Beth, and I'm a level 2 chef.
I'm Danielle, creator of Diversity Kitchen, and I've been a professional chef for 16 years.
Growing up in an Italian household, baked ziti was one of those staple dishes that, we would just have as a family because it's super easy to make. Some good sauce, ricotta cheese, mozzarella on top.
Today I'm going to be making a baked ziti pie with zesty eggplant and lots of herbs. It is really the gift that keeps on giving in the form of leftovers all week long.
Today we're making baked ziti with a ground lamb ragu and homemade pasta. I was in Bologna, Italy, learning how to make different types of Italian cuisine. And what better place to learn how to make bolognese sauce?
For my baked ziti, I like to use classic ziti pasta. I know people use other things, I just like to use the traditional stuff.
We're gonna start off by making our pasta dough. Today I'm gonna use semolina flour, as well as all-purpose flour. Semolina flour has a lot of protein, and I wanna make sure that this dough is more on the dry side. Since we're putting it through the extruder, we want something that's a little more firm and that'll hold up. Salt brings out the flavor and everything.
Of course, gotta add some salt.
Lots of salt.
I also like to throw in a little olive oil. My grandma used to do it.
So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna just make a little well. And this is to put my eggs and my water, just so that I can slowly start to incorporate the liquid with the flour. And what you have to do with all pasta doughs, you have to let it rest. It allows time for the gluten to relax, and then you can start having fun and putting it into any shape you want.
I like to use a boxed pasta. Just buy it from the store and call it a day.
And you're gonna add all of the pasta. You wanna stir the pasta so they don't stick. Hey Siri, set a timer for 8 minutes.
My dough has rested, so now I can start working with it. I'm gonna create these little balls. And they don't have to be perfect because they're gonna be all pushed out through the extruder. I'm gonna do that here. And then you do wanna make sure that you get roughly the same length. You don't wanna have ones that are really short and ones that are really long, because what happens is then they don't cook at the same rate. Looks pretty good, right? And look, this is perfect right there. The sauce can actually get in the middle of the pasta. Every bite you get some sauce. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna parboil these for 2 minutes. I'm not gonna cook it all the way.
So our pasta's been cooking here.
It looks like it's good to go. I do like to taste one piece and just make sure it's nice and al dente.
Just before al dente, just before.
So it's still gonna be very, very firm. Once we add the sauce and put it in the oven to bake, it'll finish cooking in the oven.
Perfect.
Let's call it done.
I think this is called a spider spatula, but don't quote me on that.
I'm not gonna rinse these. I'm not gonna put olive oil on these.
It keeps things from sticking together.
I want the sauce to stick to the pasta, right? Whenever you rinse it, you're washing off all that good starch. My par-baked pasta.
Ziti's cooked. We're gonna set it aside and then make our mix-ins.
Now I'm going to be making the marinara sauce, which is a very important part of our baked ziti pie. First thing I do is chop garlic. I'm one of those people who doubles it in recipes. 5 to 7 cloves, depending on how garlicky you're feeling that day. Smells good.
Now it's time for the sauce. To get started, what I need to do first is take what is considered the mirepoix. A mirepoix is simply celery, onion, and carrot. You can find it in a lot of different stocks, sauces, and things like that. So I'm gonna use just a little bit in the sauce to help build the flavor. I'm gonna sweat these with a little bit of olive oil in my pot. And it's always more onion than it is celery and carrot. Just flavor-wise. I'm gonna let this kind of sweat for a few minutes until the onions become a little translucent. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add my lamb. So I'm gonna cook my lamb through. I'm gonna let all the fat kind of render off. I have tomato paste and I have wine. I am going to add the wine and I'm gonna reduce it a little, and then I'm gonna add the tomato paste. The tomato paste, what I'm gonna do to it is called pinçage or pincé. And it's allowing the tomato paste to brown. And when it browns, you are adding flavor.
We're gonna add the tomatoes. And then we are also going to add some salt, red pepper flakes. I love this because it's kind of choose your own adventure. If you want it spicier, add more red pepper flakes. You want more oregano? Sure, go for it. Although oregano makes me burp, but it smells like pizza, so it's not that bad. Dried basil.
Homemade chicken stock. And these are whole tomatoes. As it cooks all day, all that's gonna break down. Quite often when you have Parmesan cheese, I always tell people do not throw away the rind, right? That's where your flavor is. There is a very thin layer of wax on the outside. Take the back of a knife and then you'll slowly scrape. That is the wax, and that's what you don't want in your sauce. I'm adding the rind of the cheese, and I'm gonna add prosciutto to this for flavor. Both are gonna impart their own flavor, and they're gonna impart saltiness. Bring it up to a boil just so that it's hot, right? And then I'm gonna turn it down immediately to a simmer, and I'm gonna let it go for a few hours, giving it a little stir to make sure nothing is burning on the bottom.
We're gonna let this simmer down for about 20 minutes, and then it will be ready for the baked ziti.
I've simmered this sauce low and slow all day, and honestly, it's perfect.
Not gonna make my sauce, bought this from the store, and we're just gonna pour it in this bowl. And look at that, I just saved myself 12 hours for making homemade marinara sauce.
All right, so you can't have baked ziti pie without cheese.
I like to use some delicious, full-fat ricotta cheese. You put a little honey on this and there's dessert. And then of course, some pre-shredded mozzarella.
Fresh mozzarella.
Low-fat mozzarella. I love this one because how it melts and how it browns. Fontina, it melts more along the lines of like a cheddar. I'm going to fold it in with the pasta and the sauce. And then of course the Parmesan Reggiano. It's fantastic. I mean, it's the king of Italian cheeses, but it really imparts a nutty flavor.
So you wanna take your fresh mozzarella and you wanna grate it on your biggest setting of grater possible.
So this is my Fontina cheese, and now the mozzarella.
I know some people like to add their sauce separate from their cheese, but we're making it easy and throwing it all in one bowl. Easy cleanup, no mess. I'm an animal, so I'm just gonna eyeball lots of mozzarella, and we'll just save the rest for topping the baked ziti off. Anyone could do this, even me.
So we have our mozzarella here, our Fontina, and then I'll take a microplane and just do a little bit of our Parmesan Reggiano on top.
For our second cheese today, we could do Parmesan, but we're gonna spruce it up. We're gonna use Pecorino. It's got all the same kind of nutty characteristics that Parmesan has, but for me, it's earthier.
The last thing I like to put on baked ziti is breadcrumbs. I'm all about textures. You get the creaminess of the cheese, you get the al dente from the pasta, but I always feel like it misses one thing, and that's a crunch. So I'm just gonna make a little bit of croutons, and that will be our final garnish. I prefer to do my croutons in the oven versus on the stovetop. I find doing them in the pan, they don't get crispy all the way through sometimes. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil, salt, and pepper. I like to season my croutons, and I'm gonna toast it on 400 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes until they're golden brown all the way through. And off to the oven they go.
We've got some eggplant that we're gonna peel and cube. I wouldn't skimp on the olive oil here because eggplant's gonna cook in the olive oil, it's gonna soak it up, and each bite is gonna be like this burst of flavor. Now let's add some red pepper flakes.
I like to keep my baked ziti really simple with just cheese and sauce, but I'm gonna taste it and see if it needs a few extra seasonings for addition. Okay, yep, a little bit of salt. Nice amount of black pepper. And then Italian seasoning. I literally use this on everything. So once it's all there, just gonna mix it up. Another little taste. Okay, yeah, that tastes like Italian seasoning. So I think this is ready to go.
Leave these on medium-high for maybe about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how your eggplant look. You want them kind of golden brown
around the edges. I just took my croutons out of the oven and they're crunchy. That's what I want. Breadcrumbs on any pasta, I think just adds a nice little texture component to it. And there you have it. My breadcrumbs are now ready for use.
We've got lemon, acid. I think that this dish, it's got a lot of cheese, pasta. Acid just brightens up the dish and it makes it feel a little bit lighter, a little bit fresher. I like to zest a full lemon and then take the juice from about half the lemon. So in terms of herbs, lemon and thyme together are just my favorite. I actually have a lemon and thyme tattoo. Now we're gonna take fresh basil leaves, just rip it. Smells like Italy. They're nice, golden brown, not mushy. So now we kind of just wanna mix together. This will come together and be our topping here for our lovely pie. And you wanna add some marinara sauce kind of to like moisten it up a little bit, maybe about a cup, and then some pecorino. We are ready to assemble.
So now I'm gonna put everything together and then throw it in the oven to bake it.
The first thing we wanna do is coat the pasta with the sauce.
And I have freshly chopped basil because I didn't add it in the sauce while it was cooking. I'm gonna add it here because I want that to be nice and bright before it goes into the oven. And now this is where I said I like to add my Fontina because I like to have a little bit of cheese in with the pasta and not just on top.
So now we want to assemble all of the ziti in an upright position into the pan.
Just a nice coating of cooking spray, and then just dumping it in the dish. This color is perfect. Pasta looks great. It's undercooked already a little bit, so when it finishes in the oven, it's gonna be phenomenal.
All right, we're almost there. So close.
What I like to do is add a little bit of sauce on the bottom of each dish. Okay, here we go. Our pasta with plenty of sauce is in each container.
So we've got all of our noodles standing up together in our pan. We're going to want to take some marinara sauce, and you'll want to coat the top. Oh, and it's getting in all of those holes. Next, we want to take our eggplant mixture and just kind of put it all on top. That's where all that flavor is, you know, the lemon zest, the herbs, one flat layer. And now, mozzarella.
Now you know this looks good. And then just a touch of my Parmesan Reggiano.
I am using a 9-inch springform pan. It has this little clasp here, and it allows you to bake something and then remove it, and then underneath it stands up. Comes in handy. A lot for baking, but when you don't have a sweet tooth, these are the kind of pies you like.
So now that this is ready, I'm gonna pop it in the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes. Make sure the cheese is nice and cooked. It's gonna be so tasty. So in the oven it goes.
So we're ready to go into the oven. I like to bake it at 375 for about 30 minutes.
The breadcrumbs will be for after, but first, these are gonna go in the oven at 450 for about 12 to 15 minutes. And I just want this cheese to be nice and golden brown.
Voila!
Now that I've let it rest, we're ready to open it up and see who this pie is meant to be. Oh my God, so satisfying. Oh, the magic of the springform pan.
And there we have it, my baked ziti fresh out of the oven. You can tell it's a nice little golden brown on top. I'm ready to have a bite.
And this is my baked ziti.
If you're going to make me a cake, this is what I want.
And there you have it, my baked ziti.
So now it's time for my favorite part, tasting. Get all that goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Good. It's cheesy, it's saucy, it's warm. It's everything you want in a baked ziti dish.
Little kick, little spice.
Perfect. It's still al dente. The pasta sauce is fantastic. The fresh basil just really brightens everything up.
It's great.
It's just like what my grandma made.
Throw some candles in it. Happy birthday to me.
Baked ziti is a wonderful comfort food. Let's see how each of our 3 chefs made theirs. Both John and Beth used dried ziti pasta for their dish. Commercial dried pasta is made on an industrial scale from hard durum wheat, which is slightly golden because it contains carotenoids and called hard because of its high gluten protein concentration. These proteins also give dried pasta a harder texture, which limits the loss of dissolved proteins, and starch during cooking, which keeps it firm. Danielle made her own pasta from durum and all-purpose flours mixed with eggs and a touch of water. When making pasta by hand, 100% durum is so high in gluten proteins that it can be hard to mix without the aid of equipment. Hence, the addition of all-purpose flour made this handmade pasta easier to manage with a 1-to-1 ratio of these 2 flours. Egg yolks add enough fat to make the pasta supple and delicate, and the whites add additional protein to mitigate for the lower all-purpose flour used and to make the pasta more cohesive, which limits the starches from the all-purpose flour from leaking into the boiling water. John used store-bought marinara sauce. Marinara is a thinner tomato sauce. Some commercial brands include preservatives and flavor enhancers like sugar and citric acid. It's convenient. Beth made a quick tomato sauce with canned tomatoes that she seasoned with classic aromatics and red pepper flakes to add a touch of heat. Canned tomatoes are usually harvested at peak ripeness and canned almost immediately to preserve the fresh quality of the tomatoes. They usually have preservatives added like citric acid and sometimes calcium chloride, which is a salt that helps the tomatoes to retain some firmness during the canning process. Danielle made a wonderful thick lamb ragu. The key to her level 3 ragu is layers of caramelization and flavor. She started with aromatics in olive oil. Many of the flavor compounds in onions, celery, and carrots are lipid soluble, so they're expressed in the olive oil, which then permeates the entire sauce. She was sure to brown her ground lamb, which added brown color and roasted savory notes from Maillard browning. She caramelized her tomato paste, which added slight sweetness to complement the San Marzano tomatoes, which are specially designated in Italy.
I didn't want a watery sauce.
John used ricotta cheese, which is not a cheese in the truest sense, but is made from the watery byproduct when making curds from milk, called whey.
So good.
It's high in lactoglobulin proteins and riboflavin with heavy cream added. Beth used pecorino, a hard sheep's milk cheese that doesn't melt very well. It's slightly crunchy from crystallized tyrosine, an amino acid found in milk. It's sharp and salty. Danielle used fontina, my favorite, which is a softer cheese made in the Aosta Valley in Italy as soon as the cows are milked. All 3 chefs also used shredded mozzarella, which melts extremely well because it's made from stretching curds, which aligns the protein matrix into parallel fibers with fat and whey, filling the spaces in between. The separation of fibers decreases the number of connections between the proteins, making it melt like a dream.
It just adds a creaminess to it.
Baked ziti is so satisfying for lunch, dinner, and definitely as leftovers. Whether you're feeding a crowd or making individual portions, we hope you'll take some tips from our 3 amazing chefs.